Ladies and gentlemen, hello, and welcome to this new episode of Sudan in Focus weekly news magazine, which focuses on Sudan news and events, aims to give the Sudan TV audience a broad and first-hand information about what is going on in Sudan. So let's go.
Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed arrived on Tuesday in the country on an official visit during which he will hold bilateral talks with the President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, TSC, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, to progress the relations between the two countries and ways to develop the prospects for cooperation between Khartoum and Addis Ababa. President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, held a bilateral meeting with Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed on Tuesday at the Guest Palace, in which he touched on the bonds of bilateral relations between Sudan and Ethiopia. TSC President said that the visit of the Ethiopian Prime Minister indicates the depth of relations between the peoples of the two countries, pointing out that it is an extension of the sincerity of the Ethiopian leadership and its good intentions toward Sudan, stressing the strength of the relations between the two countries and the importance of preserving them. General al-Burhan briefed Abiy Ahmed on the situation in Sudan at the wake of the rebellion led by the terrorist Rapid Support Forces, RSF, militia against the state and its institutions, revealing that the terrorist RSF militia committed crimes and atrocities against the Sudanese people, in addition to destroying the state's infrastructure and targeting national institutions. For his part, the Ethiopian Prime Minister expressed his thanks to the President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council for the warm hospitality and reception, revealing that his visit to Sudan came in solidarity with the Sudanese people. He said that true friends emerge in times of trouble. Abiy Ahmed said that this visit confirmed that the government and people of Ethiopia stand with Sudan, stressing that the visit is a message of solidarity with the people of Sudan in their ordeal. He added, "This war will end and the relations between the two countries will remain firm and strong," noting the importance of peace as the basis for development, stressing that states' problems must be solved internally without external interference. President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, TSC, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, tweeted on his account on the X platform on the occasion of the visit of Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed to Sudan on Monday. Al-Burhan expressed his gratitude and appreciation to the government and people of Ethiopia for their positions in support of the security and stability of Sudan. His Excellency said, "Thank you, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Sisterly Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, for your visit and solidarity with the government and people of Sudan." President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, TSC, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, met on Monday with the Saudi Deputy Foreign Minister Walid bin Abdul Karim al-Khuraiji, who arrived in the country on an official visit. The Under-Secretary of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Hussein Awad, said in a press statement that the talks touched on the call to resume the Jeddah platform. He added that the President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council affirmed Sudan's keenness to make the Jeddah platform a success, considering it a foundation upon which to build, stressing the necessity of implementing what was agreed upon in May 2023. He said that the meeting also addressed the importance of expanding the base of facilitators in the Jeddah negotiations, revealing that the President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council expressed his reservations about the presence of any party supporting the terrorist insurgent militia. President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council expressed his thanks and appreciation for the positions of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in support of the security and stability of Sudan, referring to the fraternal relations that bind the two brotherly peoples. President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, TSC, and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, reaffirmed that there will be no negotiations with the rebel terrorist militia, saying, "We will not go to the Jeddah negotiating platform until after RSF withdraws and leaves civilian objects and citizens' homes in all cities of Sudan that they invaded." When addressing a campaign in the localities of Al-Damer, Atbara, and Berber on Thursday, Al-Burhan praised the cohesion of all sectors of the Sudanese people to support the armed forces. He said, "As long as this is our behavior, we will soon win and crush the terrorist Insurgent Rapid Support Forces, RSF, militia, and we are confident that this battle will end with the defeat of RSF militia and its allies and agents," pointing to the suffering of the Sudanese people as a result of the repercussions of the rebellion. He said, "The battle has one end, which is crushing and destroying the terrorist insurgent RSF militia," referring to the role of the People's Resistance Committees and the mobilized persons, Mustanfarin, in defeating the terrorist insurgent RSF militia and their support to the armed forces. The Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces affirmed, "This battle is the battle of the Sudanese people, and it is a people's issue." He added, "We promised, the Sudanese who were displaced and refuged, whose money was looted, and whose honor was violated, we will avenge for them, and we will take their full rights from the terrorist insurgent RSF militia, and we will defeat it soon." Vice President of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, TSC, Lieutenant General Malik Agar, said that the terrorist Rebel Rapid Support Forces, RSF, militia has exceeded the level of violence in its actions, so it must be classified as a terrorist organization that threatens international peace and security and must be fought to preserve the unity of Sudan and return the country to the square of stability and security. This came during his address, on Wednesday morning in the hall of the Coral Hotel in Port Sudan. The onset of the training workshop on the guiding rules and principles of human rights in the context of combating terrorism, which was organized by the Technical Committee for the Implementation of UN Security Council Resolutions 1267/1373, and subsequent resolutions of the National Counter-terrorism Authority, in the presence of the Ministers of Justice, Defense, Interior, and Social Welfare, in addition to the Director of the General Intelligence Service, representatives of diplomatic missions, international and regional foreign organizations, and those interested in human rights issues in Sudan. Lieutenant General Agar asserted that the Sudan War was a war between the terrorist Insurgent Rapid Support Forces, RSF, militia and the Sudanese people, in which the militia used all terrorist practices. Sudan Armed Forces in Sinnar Thursday succeeded in crushing and aborting several attempts by the terrorist Daglo militia to attack the city. The militia escaped after sustaining heavy losses in terms of personnel and equipment. Our forces in Managli and Wad al-Hussein also destroyed a large number of combat vehicles and an armored personnel carrier, and the enemy sustained huge losses in both areas, the office of the spokesperson of the armed forces said in a press statement.
A press release from the government of Sudan on the United Nations invitation to indirect deliberations in Geneva on the humanitarian situation. Based on its patriotic duty towards its citizens and in line with its obligations under international humanitarian law, and out of its keenness on cooperation and positive, constructive relations with the United Nations, represented by the personal envoy of the Secretary-General of the United Nations, Mr. Ramadan La Mamra, the government of Sudan agreed to participate in indirect deliberations in the Swiss city of Geneva on the humanitarian situation, in response to the initiative of the personal representative of the Secretary-General. The technical delegation of experts representing the government of Sudan in these deliberations is headed by Ms. Salwa Adam Benya, Commissioner for Humanitarian Aid. The delegation includes representatives of ministries and parties related to humanitarian work. Despite the nature of the invitation submitted by the personal envoy, which refers to indirect discussions and not a negotiation process, the delegation of the government of Sudan did not receive any agenda or program for these deliberations, despite its arrival in Geneva several days ago. The delegation was asked to go to the Palais des Congrès in Geneva, contrary to the indirect nature of the indirect discussions, something that the government delegation did not see as a reason for, and contradicts the understanding about media non-publication of these discussions, which was requested by the personal representative of the Secretary General. The government of Sudan reaffirms that it does not see a need to establish a new mediation platform, as it remains committed to the Jeddah platform and its pledges and the necessity of implementing those pledges that were concluded. The government will also not accept dealing with any alternative or parallel body regarding humanitarian relief other than the relevant government entity, which is the Humanitarian Aid Commission and the Supreme Committee for Humanitarian Emergencies. The government of Sudan reaffirms its commitment to positive cooperation with the United Nations in everything that will alleviate the suffering of our people and reach a common vision regarding delivering relief to the needy and displaced people in the areas that were affected directly by the repeated and deliberate attacks of the Rapid Support Forces (RSF) militia, noting that the government of Sudan is keen to deliver humanitarian aid to Sudanese citizens in the areas where the RSF militia is present, and it recently facilitated the entry of more than 460 humanitarian relief trucks through the Al-Tina crossing exclusively for its citizens in those areas. The government of Sudan renews its call to all local, regional, and international parties to work together to achieve peace and stability in the country, and stresses that its commitment to positive cooperation is not only a national duty but also part of its commitment to international humanitarian law and human rights. The government of Sudan calls on all citizens and the media to deal responsibly with the technical nature of these deliberations, and not to be carried away by rumors and misleading information spread by anti-Sudan circles, in support of the efforts made to achieve the goals that we all seek, and the government of Sudan affirms that it is up to the challenge facing the Sudanese people during this difficult stage in its history, where regional and international circles are coming together to undermine its security, sovereignty, and territorial integrity. Dr. Jeraham Abdelgader, Minister of Culture and Information, the official spokesman for the government of Sudan.
Date palms are cultivated in Sudan from the Egyptian border in the north all the way along the Nile, south of Khartoum until Sinnar. In addition to the banks of the Nile, isolated occurrences of cultivated date trees occur in the Red Sea Hills in the vicinity of Port Sudan, in Kassala along the Adbara River, in the deserts around Dongola, and far southwest in Darfur, for example in Wadi Kutum, Wadi Millit, also Bara in Kordofani state. In all these locations, the palm trees depend on accessible groundwater or on irrigation. The water for irrigation is either taken from wells or from the river Nile, where it is now provided by diesel pumps. Sudan is among the countries that produce good quality dates. The areas which famous of dates trees is Bilad al-Mahas, Sukkot, Dongola, Dar al-Shaikiya, Dar al-Manasir, Dar al-Rubatab, and areas around al-Bawga and Berber along the Nile boast extensive date groves. In each date growing region, a particular composition of palm trees varieties, including endemic species, are grown. When approaching Dar al-Manasir from surrounding deserts, the most striking feature of the landscape is green band of palm trees lining the shores of the Nile. This strip of land is called Ashu. It's situated between the seasonally land of the river bank called Jarf, and the traditional water wheel land called Sakia. Date palm trees perfectly adapted to the regional climate of Dar al-Manasir. They are drought resistant and can withstand the exceptionally hot, dry, and rainless summers and cold, dry winters. The proximity of Ashu to the river Nile makes the water table accessible to the deeply penetrating roots of fully grown palm trees throughout the year, making it the most available class of land. Dates constitute the most relevant cash crop in Dar al-Manasir in order to multiply the number of fruit-bearing trees. Traditionally offshoot propagation is practiced all along the Nile in Sudan. Lower offshoot called Shetla developed from axilla buds at the lower trunk of apparent palms offshoot will not only guarantee a female fruit-bearing palm trees, but also inherit the same qualities of its mother plant. The date trees in the region of the Fourth Cataract attain an age of up to 150 years and consist most often of multiple shoots from a single clump called bora or hufra. Satisfactory dates production with an age of 90 to 100 years. With increasing age and height, the palm trees are pollinated and harvested. They have to pass 5 stages of growth before developing into ripe fruit tamar that are harvested in August and September. The stage is Tamim Dafiq, Eifnona, Safuri, Omras, Rutab. There are many types of dates also. And these types is Meshrik, Wadlakai, Wad Khatib, Barakawi, Abdrahim, Bur, Brer, Gandel, Bint Tamoda, and Tamrat Muhammad, Jaw, Karmosh. Dry dates are washed in water and offered in between and following traditional meals. And that traditional meals is Madidat Balah, Gorasat Balah, Barbur for traditional diet for women after having given birth, and Sherbot kind of drinks, and Bagania kind of juices also enter in the cosmetics and more than this. So our famous words is Sudan is a world food basket.
This military camp in Durman is where young men from Sudan's western Darfur region come to receive training. They volunteered to fight alongside Sudan's army in its war against the Paramilitary Rapid Support Forces, or RSF. Musa Adam was displaced from his city of Niala in South Darfur. He says the horrors committed by the RSF is what made him join this camp.
The displacement, the looting of civilians, the rape of our sisters and mothers is what made me join this camp. The RSF took over Niala, and staying there became too dangerous. So I came here, but joined this camp to return to Darfur and fight the RSF.
The war between the army and the RSF, which started last year in the capital, spread quickly to Darfur, which has long been a conflict zone. Violence there between the former government and rebel forces in 2003 killed more than 300,000 people and displaced 2 million people. The UN described it as ethnic cleansing by government forces and their allies. For many of those here, the current conflict is a continuation of the war that started in Darfur in 2003. The RSF has its origins in the Janjaweed militia, which the government used to fight rebels and which was accused of committing crimes against civilians. Now, the paramilitary is accused of committing similar crimes against civilians around the country, but more specifically in the Darfur region. The UN says between 10,000 to 15,000 have been killed in West Darfur alone when ethnic Masalit were targeted by the RSF and allied groups in this conflict. Several mass graves have been reported in the state. In North Darfur, the last remaining army stronghold in the region, the RSF has launched repeated attacks that has led to the displacement of more than 130,000 people in the past month. Dozens of villages have been burned to the ground, mostly of ethnic Zaghawas. Some of those who've ended up in the camp are former soldiers and former RSF officers.
I
reported to the army on the first day of the conflict against the RSF because it rebelled against the government. They stood against the army and against the country from day one. They killed civilians and forced them to leave their homes.
The camp is run by this commander, a member of what's known as the Border Guards, once stationed in Darfur. They were once allied with the RSF. They're now fighting their former allies.
Those from Darfur who've come here have gone through injustice. All 5 states in Darfur aren't safe because of the RSF, except for Al-Fasher. The other states have been looted, people have been killed and robbed. That's what those forces are, mercenaries and tribalists.
The RSF controls most of the western region. For those here, Darfur may be hundreds of kilometers away, but they say fighting the RSF here in the capital makes them feel one step closer to home. Hiba Morgan, Al Jazeera, Omdurman.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.
The baobab tree is a huge. The trees are spread in the western Sudan in particular and the subtropical rainforest area. It is an evergreen tree and contains high amount of vitamin C. It has the property of being soluble in water. The huge baobab tree is surrounded by many popular myths, and it also contains an anti-cholesterol substance, the main cause of heart disease. The baobab tree grows in western Sudan, an area where rainfall is abundant. In some areas, they use its trunk as a water reservoir by creating an internal cavity to benefit from it in the summer. The leaves are used in folk medicine as a treatment for fever, stomach, and to stop bleeding, and are presented in the form of local drink. The leaves have therapeutic effects and are used in folk medicine as a treatment for diarrhea and dysentery, strengthening the immune system and preventing anemia, and also improve the health of the digestive system and maintaining healthy skin and supporting weight loss and lowering blood pressure. The high percentage of vitamin C found in baobab can significantly increase iron absorption and has the ability to maintain sugar levels.
Alayo alungodiya alawan Sudan jera Alayo alungodiyo alawan Sudan jera alayo 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 alongotiyo oye wujiye dwarambanye ruwa wujiye dwarambanye ruwa alayo alongotiya alama Sudan yera alayo alongotiyo alama Sudan yera alayo alongotiya alama Sudan yera alayo alongotiya alama Sudan yera alayo alongotiya alama Sudan yera oye wujiye dwarambanye ruwa wujiye dwarambanye ruwa alayo alongotiya alama Sudan yera alayo alongotiya alama Sudan yera alayo alongotiyo alama Sudan yera oye wujiye dwarambanye ruwa wujiye dwarambanye ruwa alayo alongotiya alama Sudan yera oye wujiye dwarambanye